They're saying people over 50 are becoming unemployable.
The CEO of AT&T got on a company-wide town hall and told his entire workforce to say goodbye to experienced workers.
Here's why Liberty Mutual has to pay a $103 million jury verdict for an age discrimination claim.
I watched a 25-year-old get my promotion, and then they asked me to train her.
More and more older workers feel like they are being pushed out of the workforce. And after looking at what has happened in just the last few months, it's easy to see why. Whether it's layoffs late in people's careers or age discrimination at the front end during the hiring process, or the lawsuits that result, the stories just keep piling up.
4 weeks since I last worked, and I was forced into a retirement that I hadn't planned for. I cried. I felt invisible, and I was kind of questioning my worth. I'd spent years in a really important legal career, and suddenly, well, I kind of just felt like I'd disappeared.
So there's a lot to unpack here, right? People getting pushed out before they are ready financially and just before they are ready to stop working. We invest so much in our careers, we care about it, we sacrifice so much, and then to have it end abruptly before we are ready, it seems really unfair. Of course, it is just business and it's the reality these days, and it is happening a lot. I don't know if it's happening more than ever. However, I do have a lot of interesting stats to show in this video that have just come out over the last few months. Case in point, from AARP, 64% of workers over 50 have seen or experienced age discrimination, and 22% say they feel like they are being pushed out of their jobs because of their age. So almost 2/3 of people over 50 say they've seen or experienced it, and then almost 1/4 say they are actively being pushed out of their job.
I've just been laid off after working for 20 years at the same company, and I have nothing.
And a lot of people are saying this, and for the younger viewers out there, we cannot overspend. We have to save. You have to save at the front end. I know this is just a reminder, but have to save at the front end, meaning before you decide on a place to rent or a place to buy, before you decide on a car, make sure you are saving a serious chunk of your income. A recent survey from Allianz found that 42% of Americans retire earlier than expected, often because of health issues, caregiving responsibilities, or job loss. But an even more powerful stat, of those who retired earlier than expected, only 21% felt financially secure. That means 4 out of every 5 people who retire earlier than expected are not financially prepared for it, which really, I guess that doesn't surprise a lot of people, especially in this day and age with the crazy cost of living. But all the more reason that we have to prepare early. I haven't even gotten into all of the things that can happen later in life. There are a lot of examples of this in the comments after the first clip that we saw. I was forced into retirement due to heart failure. Another one, this is me, I'm 59 and had to leave my job of 26 years because of my mental health. Another one, 61 and might have to stop working due to arthritis, making walking painful and difficult. They are a cleaner. And the last one, I'm 59 and the same thing has happened to me. My health is a bit rubbish and I realized I can't return to work not until I get enough benefits, too young for a pension. And it looks like a lot of these comments came from the UK, so they don't even have to worry about the huge medical bill that a lot of Americans might have to concern themselves with.
The CEO of AT&T got on a company-wide town hall and told his entire workforce to say goodbye to experienced workers so that they could build the next generation. And at a separate company event, he called himself the old guy who wasn't going to work much longer, must be nice, and told the younger employees in the room that they look wonderful. No one pushed back. No correction was issued. HR didn't say anything, and then 9,000 managers were told to relocate or lose their jobs. Guess who's less likely to move? Older workers, and AT&T knew that.
So multiple lawsuits have been filed in the last few months claiming that AT&T intentionally started doing these relocations to push older workers out. Plaintiffs claim that AT&T knew a lot of these late career employees would not be able to relocate or really wouldn't want to. And it was seen as a way that AT&T could replace the older workers with younger ones who were, of course, probably a lot cheaper. And so this is a more extreme example, but I've talked about the return to work on this channel before, and it is really, in a lot of cases, or a lot of people suspect that it is a form of quiet layoffs. Employers know that their employees are happy working from home, And they've let them do that for a while, right? They've trusted them to do that. And I've talked about on previous videos how employees are more effective when they have a hybrid environment, when they can work remotely a little bit and in the office maybe a couple of times per week. Why are they more effective? Probably because they are happier and there's less stress. Now, I know a lot of people out there have to do that. I've done that before in my career as well. So a lot of people are going to say it's just a part of the job. You just kind of have to do it. And sure, but in this age of technology, it clearly doesn't have to be that way. And all of these companies push for continuous improvement. And what do they say, right? Just because it's the way that we've always done things doesn't mean it's the best way to do it now and into the future. Just wanted to show one of the comments under that video because it brings up a great point, and I will show a lot of comments from many of you throughout this video as well. So thank you for those, and make sure to leave some down below. Just because you are considered a high performer, get good performance reviews, raises, bonuses, doesn't mean anything. They will lay you off for any reason. Comment from one of you: loyalty to a company will turn out to be your heartbreak. And I've just been seeing this so often when it comes to older workers, especially. They will get good reviews, exceeds expectations throughout their career. They will get promotions and raises, and then all of a sudden they'll be put on a performance improvement plan. And there's tons of other things the employers will do to try to push them out because, of course, when an employee quits, it's a lot cheaper for the company than if they have to lay them off. And oftentimes when an employee resigns, there's not going to be a lawsuit like in the case of AT&T. But anyway, I wanted to talk about a recent Transamerica Institute survey where they reported 30% of employers identified a specific age that they considered too old to hire. The median cutoff age was right around 65, which seems kind of high to me, at least, from an employer perspective based on the evidence that I've seen. Now, some employers consider people under 60 too old. Now, what I take from that is the employers are being a little bit honest in that they are admitting, yes, there is an age that is too old to hire, but I think they are artificially inflating the actual number that they are thinking. So they might say 60, but what they really mean is probably like 45.
This layoff story haunts me at night. This girl gets sent to Florida on a work trip, not vacation, for a project for them. She lands, gets an email that says, "I'm sorry, we regret to inform you." The best part is that they canceled her flight home. I'm sorry, what? And for anyone that's going to say, well, if you're good at your job or you're a high performer, you're safe, high performers are not safe either.
Yeah, as we've seen, it doesn't matter really how good you are at your job, how much you sacrifice for the company. But anyway, if I was laid off during a work trip, I wouldn't mind if it was in Florida. I guess it depends on what part of Florida. But as the first comment says, canceled her flight home. That almost sounds illegal. I'd imagine it is, and that they had to at least reimburse her. Hopefully they did that on their own and they weren't, forced to do that by a judge. And one of the implications of being let go is that we lose our insurance rights. So another comment provides a really interesting strategy that people might be able to employ out there. So I figured out I was getting fired. So I called in sick that Friday, which was the last day of the month. I knew they wouldn't fire me by email because the HR person had been written up for using verbiage that led to lawsuits. I showed up Monday and they fired me at the end of the day, but it was a new month, so I kept my insurance all month.
The real reason they want you back in the office full time, they're forcing return to office. It's not about collaboration or culture. It's about forcing expensive workers to quit. Here's what they know about older workers over 45. Most likely to have aging parents requiring care, more likely to have health conditions making long commutes harder, and more likely to have built an entire life around the flexibility they were promised.
Now, what we're seeing is technology obviously allowing people to work from home, right? But I think it's also the technology, at least like the analytics, telling the employers that they should force the older people out of the company, bring in younger people, and just it'll help the bottom line, and the company will be more profitable moving forward. forward. But how deep do these analytics go? Do they really model companies moving into the future when they get rid of all of the experience, the people who have been there, the people who can use data to make decisions like that, make good decisions because they have the experience? Can they really model the effects effectively and definitively say that they are going to be better off just getting rid of all these older people and bringing in the younger people over the long term? So to be clear, there's no conclusive proof yet that the return to office movement is an intentional ploy to get rid of older workers. But there is growing evidence that some employees, lawyers, and researchers believe that these relocation mandates or return to office can disproportionately affect older workers. And several recent lawsuits are making that exact same argument. Now, I know I covered the AT&T lawsuit earlier, but I did uncover something that the CEO allegedly said. The plaintiff cited these remarks according to the court filings. He said, "We need younger people working at this company."
So today I've had an epiphany. I've had a moment of clarity and some understanding in the job market today. All these people who say you should work until you're 70 or shouldn't retire at all, these are the exact same people that won't hire you if you're over 50. There are a lot of people out there who are over 50, as I am, who are looking for work, who are trying to find a job, yet they can't find one.
I dropped my mouse. Okay, where was I? Talk about hypocrisy, right? They're telling us we have to work until 70 or maybe for the rest of our lives, yet who's going to hire us? How are we supposed to work? I guess we have to start our own thing. If anybody wants any pointers on how to start a YouTube channel, let me know. But the AARP recently warned that long-term unemployment is becoming a growing issue for workers over 50. Layoffs can be devastating no matter what the age, but for older workers, it can permanently change the rest of their careers. I've talked before about how when you reach around 50 years old and you get laid off, the next job almost always pays significantly lower than the one that you got laid off from. And I've talked about once people become long-term unemployed, which I believe is about half a year. Once you hit that, it is so much harder to get another job because when you're applying, they see that gap in the resume. One of those red flags that we don't want to show on our resume. And again, towards the end of the video, I will show some resume tips. I mentioned as well all the lawsuits. I talked about AT&T, so I'll talk about some more of those. Still got a lot to cover, but I wanted to talk about a recent hiring discrimination study. This was done by Le Monde. They found that younger applicants were 1.5 times more likely to get callbacks than older workers. I'm going to say that again, just a different way. Younger workers are 50% more likely to get a callback than their older counterparts. So we have seen a lot of evidence that there is ageism in the workplace. So let's hear from an employment lawyer about a crazy lawsuit, or should I say an insanely high settlement.
My name is Paige Sparks. I'm an employment lawyer, and this is reportedly one of the largest age discrimination verdicts in U.S. history. After years of litigation, an LA jury has awarded $103 million in damages to former senior claims manager Joyce Slagle. She says during her employment, she made several complaints about age discrimination. She says Liberty Mutual had a culture of pushing older, more senior employees out and favoring younger employees. Joy worked there for over 30 years. She had only positive performance reviews until the management change, which is when she received her first needs improvement review for something she says wasn't her fault. She says that part of that negative review was after the management change when team-wide issues were focused only on her performance. She says she was ignored in the office and singled out in meetings, and she was criticized for setting the bar too high, whatever that means. She was then replaced by a 20-year-old man, which is something you have to show when you bring these age discrimination claims. One of the elements is we have to show that you were replaced by a younger individual.
A $103 million verdict. Now, $83 million of that was punitive damages. Now, a very important and interesting tidbit, the jury awarded $103 million, but the judge actually has the power to reduce that if he felt like it was excessive, which he did just last month, just in May 2026. He reduced it down to $20 million, so still a significant size lawsuit.
I had to pause when I heard this. They're saying people over 50 are becoming unemployable. Now listen, ageism is real. I've seen it and I've experienced it firsthand. But that's not the whole truth. What's actually happening is this: a lot of people stayed loyal to one system, while the system kept changing. Same resume, same skills, same strategy. And now the market moved and nobody warned you. So it feels like age. It's really exposure. Because the people winning at 50 plus, they didn't just rely on one paycheck. They updated, they adapted, they built options.
Of course, it's not always age discrimination, right? There are just so many variables. So what do we have to do from like a technical or maybe like a scientific perspective? We have to try to eliminate all of the other variables as best as we can. If you can actually do that, then you will know for sure that it's age discrimination that's the reason that you can't get a job if you're looking for one. So are we qualified for the job? Are we overqualified for the job? Maybe even more important, I've talked about before, if you are overqualified, they almost certainly will not hire you. Comment from one of you that speaks to this. Overqualified equals expensive. That's really what it is. Also, have we brushed up on how to do interviews in this day and age? It's not the same as it used to be, but anyway, I wanted to show a comment under that clip because it brings up a really good point. Depends on the industry. I'm 63 and at the peak of my career that I love. Seasoned professionals are in demand. Stay relevant, especially with technology and AI. So the seasoned professional thing, I'll kind of, are they in demand right now? It's a pretty terrible job market. So I don't know about that. It depends on the specific skill, but I have spoken before about AI and how important it is to have the skills and know how to use it. A lot of people out there hate it and they hate technology these days, and I get that too. But I mean, it's about career preservation. We have to combat the cost of living, and a lot of us need a job, so it's kind of just an evil that we have to deal with. If you look at AI as evil or your enemy, in this case, keep your friends close and your enemy's closer.
When you get to about 50, and in fact for women it's about 45, people start to think you're in the back end of your life, and you are not.
What would you say to recruiters or employers here?
Why do you think the year someone was born is far more important than their wisdom and their experience? Just a recruiter not having the wherewithal to actually respond to a flippin' job application. If you can use AI to cut us out, you can damn well use AI to do a response.
AI is taking a lot of jobs, or at least companies are using it as an excuse for layoffs, and a lot of those layoffs are targeting older workers, so we might as well use it to our advantage. And in fact, a lot of research out there is showing that workers who do have AI skills are safer in their jobs and more likely to land a job if they're looking for one. That's one reason Coursera is so popular right now. Their free trial will give you access to a lot of AI content and thousands of other courses as well from top companies and universities. I'm talking like companies like Google and IBM, universities like Duke and Vanderbilt. So if you want to learn more, check out the link down below. I think it's really going to help a lot of people. And if they do click the link, it helps the channel as well. And for the older workers out there, Coursera can really help to improve and update skills for those of us that are later in our careers.
People in their 70s and 80s are generally unemployable to physical and mental decline, but for some reason we allow them to run our entire country. So one thing that's been on the rise lately is what they call age discrimination, or ageism. Research shows that we have a serious problem affecting workers aged over 50. That problem is that they struggle to get hired. It's tough because we're like, I don't know if I trust this guy with marketing. I don't know if I trust this guy with my customer service. Then we're like, get that mother fluffer in Congress. Let's let them run the country.
So just a massive contradiction, right? And another one is that companies need older workers, and the number of older workers that are actually out there working has increased significantly over the years. Now, Canada is about 10% of the size of the US, but very similar job market. And the data shows that workers 55 plus increased by 184% from 2000 to 2023. So workers in that age category went from 1 in 10 in the workforce to 1 in 5. Now, is this because of an aging workforce or people needing to work longer because of the cost of living? Probably a mix of both, but the really interesting numbers are here to come. Now, this is according to the OECD. Only 59% of adults maintain continuous employment throughout their 50s. So this can be from a myriad of issues, right? Whether it's layoffs, health issues, having to take care of a family member. Only 30 31% remain consistently employed through their 60s. A lot of that probably due to retirement, right? But I mean, in this day and age, like a lot of people are needing to work until 70 or maybe even later. But as we're seeing, a lot of those needs are not being met.
If you've recently been rejected for a job with very vague language, not a culture fit, or overqualified, and you felt like it was a little bit off, your gut probably wasn't wrong. You just didn't have the email chain to prove it. But a 62-year-old man who applied for a sales director at a major tech company, he did. I'm going to tell you what happened. He had the experience, he got the interview, and then the hiring manager sent an email to the recruiting team accidentally CCing this guy, explaining why they weren't moving forward. The email said he was too old. Yep. So the company is HCL America. They are the US arm of one of the largest IT service firms in the world. HCL tried to settle this quietly, but they couldn't. So in 2024, the candidate filed a federal suit. And then this past April, the federal court ordered HCL to pay this candidate $495,000, and they ordered them to have a massive policy overhaul for their hiring practices.
So that guy got justice, but how many people out there do not, right? And did the person who sent that email copying him saying he was too old, what happened to them? They were saying he was too old to do the job. I bet he wouldn't have copied a candidate on an email saying they were too old. You shouldn't even put that in writing. I mean, that just seems ridiculous to even put that in writing. I mean, other people on the email chain might want to keep it and use it in the future in a lawsuit, right? Just mind-blowing what goes on in some of these companies. I wanted to talk about some more AARP research. It shows that 41% of workers over 40 report experiencing some form of ageism at work. That's roughly 37 million Americans over a 3-year period. Now, only 13% of workers who report experiencing age discrimination say they made a formal complaint. So while millions of people report age discrimination, only about 15,000 to 17,000 age discrimination charges are filed each year. And even when people do fight back, the odds aren't great. Most cases never make it to trial, but the few that do, only about 40% of workers win. Another comment from one of you after a recent video I did: don't get too comfortable at any job. Always be ready for the possibility of being laid off. And another one that kind of speaks to the current environment that we're in: laid off for the second time in 2 years, brutal, emergency funds depleted, and the interviewing is a straight up humiliation ritual. And one more that speaks to the emergency fund: the 3 to 6 months of expenses strategy died when these mass layoffs started a couple of years ago. Now it should be 12 to 18 months. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I don't know if there's an exact figure, but we certainly need to be prepared for the worst. So we covered a few lawsuits. Just wanted to cover one more. I did a previous video on Meta recently, and there was a lawsuit involving age discrimination there. If you're not familiar, it's the same company as Facebook. Anyway, a former Meta senior director sued, claiming older workers were disproportionately targeted in layoffs. Where have we seen that before, right? He had worked there for 13 years. He alleged older workers were disproportionately targeted during their low performer purge, and he's seeking punitive damages. So it brings up a good discussion, right? Because Meta is a leader, so other companies learn from them, right? So when they're targeting low performers, who are they really targeting?
I watched a 25-year-old get my promotion, and then they asked me to train her. Here's what I said. No, they passed me over for a promotion that I had earned, gave it to someone fresh out of grad school with zero experience, and then expected me to teach her how to do the job they said I wasn't good enough for. The audacity is stunning, isn't it? I am not going to hand over everything I know so you can pay her half of what you pay me. And they said I wasn't supporting the team. I said the team didn't support me when I asked why I didn't get the role. Silence.
Yeah, we've seen this before. We've seen people say don't give a company 100%, and you kind of have to toe the line, right? I mean, we want to keep our job, but we also want to keep our self-respect. As older workers, we have a target on our back. So when we do something like what she was saying, are we making that target bigger, or are we making it smaller by not helping the younger people take our job? I'm not pretending to know what the answer is, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Comment under this video is great, and something I think maybe we could all say if we are confronted with a situation like this: if I'm not qualified for the position, I'm not qualified to train the person receiving it. Now, before we get into the resume side of things and some other helpful tips, I wanted to talk a little bit more about AI and how it's impacting the workforce. A new study, again from AARP, found that 30% of older workers think AI will be a threat to their job within the next 5 years. What do you think? Maybe leave a comment down below. Another recent hiring study found AI skills can partially offset age disadvantages in hiring. So like I said, check out the Coursera link down below where you can brush up on your AI skills or any other skills. They've got a ton of great courses there. That creates a really fascinating tension though, right? Older workers are feeling threatened by AI, but AI skills are maybe what's going to help us compete.
Remove your graduation year from your resume, period. You don't want to open yourself up to age bias. Harvard's done a ton of studies on getting interviews for jobs where older people are less likely to get interviews. Age bias also affects research grant proposals and everything else. You don't ever want to give a recruiter a reason to think, oh, this person is too inexperienced, or oh, this person is too senior for this role. Your experience is what has to get the recruiters excited, nothing else. And so don't give them a reason for them to think, oh, this person might be too young, or this person might be too old. That's just not relevant today, and it's illegal.
So that's a good tip. Another one, just show roughly like the last 10 or 15 years of experience you have on your resume. It doesn't need to be an autobiography. Definitely you don't want to show like 30 or 40 years there. It's obviously a pretty clear way to show your age. And highlight recent technology and especially AI skills like I talked about before. This is probably the biggest one in this current era. Show ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot any automation tools and modern software that you have experience with. One of the fastest ways to fight age stereotypes is to demonstrate these skills, but they are important, of course, for all ages. And this came from the LinkedIn Workplace Learning Report. Another tip from the Harvard Business Review Career Advice: quantify your accomplishments. So instead of managed projects, use something like managed a $15 million project that finished 8% under budget. Another one, this one from AARP, again, been referencing them a lot in this video. Avoid overqualified language. I talked about that before, right? Older workers often unintentionally make this mistake. Definitely want to avoid 4-page resumes, especially any senior titles if they're not applicable for the role that you're applying for. Another one, again from LinkedIn, use a modern LinkedIn profile. And I've heard from other non-LinkedIn sources before how important LinkedIn is. A lot of recruiters just go on there. They might not even really look at the resumes. They might just see your name and then go to LinkedIn and see if everything checks out. And you definitely want to make sure LinkedIn matches your resume. But on LinkedIn, make sure you have a professional photo, updated headline, show your recent skills and your recent accomplishments. And you don't want anything on there that will show your age. So obviously use a photo that makes you look a little bit younger. Anyway, and of course we can use technology to help with that, right? Last one, network more and apply less. You're probably sick of hearing from me, so let's hear from someone else on this topic.
Let me tell you something. Y'all better stop customizing your resume every time you apply to a job. You realize these bitches aren't even opening your application. It stays closed. The issue isn't having a perfectly customized resume when no one is reading your resume, sister. All that time you're spending customizing that piece of paper, mama, it should be going into networking. Start knowing who's who, start getting referrals, start fucking razzle-dazzling them.
So this might actually be the most important tip. Research consistently shows referrals and networking dramatically increase interview odds compared with cold online applications. Older workers at this point should have decades of professional contacts that you can use. It's one of the biggest advantages that older workers have. We have enough disadvantages out there, right? So we have to use the advantages that we do have. Now, I haven't even talked about all of the ghost listings that are out there. There's ghost interviews that are going on. They're just harvesting people's data in a lot of cases, or companies just trying to put it out there that they're hiring when they're really not. But anyway, a couple of comments from some of you that speak to this. We've all had ghost listings, ghost interviews, fake jobs, the whole works. Another one, people should collectively sue the websites that allow ghost jobs to be posted. If you haven't subscribed, I'm Justin. I put out content like this on a regular basis, so make sure to hit that button. Let me know what's your experience with the job market right now. Leave a comment down below if you like this video. I would appreciate a thumbs up. Feel free to share with anyone else who might like it. I hope to see you again here soon. Bye for now.